Everybody, welcome back. Northernlion plays the Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus. 26 wins in a row. Had a little bit of a last time. I don't know, that's my way of saying it was a little slow. D8, B9, ETZ7. And now, sometimes you remember that it's a speed uphill, sometimes you forget that it's a speed uphill. What's up with that? Let me elucidate something for you, okay? Your brain is made of wet meat with electricity running through it, okay? You know, sometimes, like, the lights flicker in your house, especially if you got an old house, you know? Sometimes, you ever live in a place where, like, if somebody ran up the stairs, when they hit, like, the 6th stair up, it would cause the light in your bedroom to flicker? That's pretty much what you're dealing with when you enter your 30s. The memory is still there, don't get me wrong. But there are days where I'm crystal clear. Like, I'm my teenage self. I can recall, like, let me put it, the easiest way to explain it is that I'm not suffering, at least to the best of my knowledge, from any kind of, like, early onset dementia or something like that, but, the way I would describe it is that there are days where I'll be like, what's the name of the guy who plays Captain Kirk in the new Star Trek movies with J.J. Abrams directing? And I go, it's Chris Pine. Why would you even ask such a simple question? It's Chris Pine. He's also in Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984. He's been in a lot of movies. Chris Pine is Unstoppable with Denzel Washington, the train that couldn't slow down, etc., etc. And then there are days where I, wake up and I'll ask myself the same question, and I'll be like, I remember that I remembered it yesterday, but today, it's just not there. The mind is a very interesting thing, you know? I'm not even taking this as like, oh, getting old sucks. If anything, it's just like the brain is so fascinating, and, many people smarter than myself have said it, for sure. Isn't it crazy, though? Like, this one simple thought boggles my mind from time to time. I think it's crazy that someone can ask you something, and you know that you know it. You know what I mean? Someone will ask you a question, and your brain will recognize that information is within my capacity. But you can't summon it for like 10 seconds, but you're like actively working to summon it. You know what I mean? Like your brain is going like, is it blue scoop? Yeah, and it's like, it's working. Like, what is it doing? Combing the neurons for like, just the fact that like specific information can be, coded in the brain and then recalled is amazing to begin with. But it's just tempting. We'll think about that. It's just, that one specific thing is kind of stunning to me. The idea that your brain can know that it knows something, but it doesn't have access to the specific answer just yet. Like, you might be like, oh, that's not as interesting as, Vegeta deciding that it would be too cowardly for him to defeat Imperfect Cell and instead giving Imperfect Cell a chance to absorb Android 18 so that he could become Perfect Cell and letting his hubris get the better of him. Sure, you're into whatever you're into, but let me at least try to illustrate why I think it's insane. How does your brain recognize that it has the right answer within it without having access to the right answer? You know what I mean? It's like it holds a piece of metadata, and the metadata is like, maybe you've got, I'm going to put it in programming terms, so maybe you have an object, in your brain, a custom data object that you've created yourself, and it's like, Lake Superior. And what does it know about Lake Superior? It's got some different, meta tags assigned to it. One of them is like, it's a Great Lake. One of them is that, it's in the United States of America. One of them is that, if anybody asks you what's the largest Great Lake, this is the answer to that question. That's the only way I can contextualize it. But I think it's, there's two things about it that are wild to me. One is that your brain can be like, I know the answer to this question, but I need 22 seconds in order to actually summon the right answer. Like, the fact that it's doing, a second-order operation like that is crazy to me. And then the other thing is that it actually is not instantaneous transmission. It's like there's like a meat crystal located in your brain, and then the brain is like, hold on, I gotta mine that meat crystal. It's gonna release a bunch of acetylcholine, and then all of a sudden I'm gonna know what the answer is. It's very interesting to me. I'm not like obviously a neurologist. I'm not even like a pretend neurologist like most of the people you see in Twitch chat that are like, oh, I'm pretty smart because I watched a lot of YouTube videos about it. I'm like literally just a layperson going like, wouldn't it be amazing? But it's wild to think about stuff like that for sure. Like the brain it's incredible. Don't get me wrong, the heart, I mean, all the organs are incredible. I've talked about it before. Like, you know what percentage of your body is essentially just a bio machine designed to process organic matter? Like, if you really want to be, you know, mess with your head a little bit, really, if anything, the brain is pretty much just a higher order organ that, you know, tries to get you to be a little bit better at getting the organic material and maybe putting some organic material out into the world yourself, if you catch my drift there. But I am gonna. This is gonna really compromise our damage, but I'm gonna take it for the force multiplier that essentially you get. And this just feels like a second secret room to me. It's illogical, but yeah, okay, fair enough. The mass effect from essentially having infinite range and piercing shots, I do think is worth it, but this is not. I mean, we got tons of HP. We can let it ride here for a bit for sure. But yeah, it's very interesting to me. I mean, all organs are interesting. Like, it's crazy to me that, you know, like the way that the liver works. Because, you know, like, robots are so, and I'm trying to think of the, and you're going to be like, he woke up on a weird side of the bed. No, just, like, I very rarely get involved in these, like, you know, hypothetical sort of discussions without, you know, I'd rather discuss figures and all the earnings per share and the return on invested capital is blah, blah. But occasionally, I dabble in thinking about more, you know, amorphous, you know, qualitative things. But, you know, it's just crazy to me that if you have, like, you know, if you write a program, it's kind of clean. And you're like, well, this guy's never written enterprise software. He should see my, and you get the idea. You know, he should see my Git requests. But, you know, you take, like, data from one spot and you process it, and then you know, present it in another spot, and then you process the input that you get out of that, and so on and so forth. It's like 80% of the world's economy right now, right? It's just that and Hatchimals. Let me out, please. But, like, to do that with, like, a biological, like with meat that you've grown yourself is crazy, man. Like, the idea that you, like, just work with me on this one, okay? So when, like, you eat a chocolate bar, first you masticate it, right? You chew it. Hopefully Google DeepMind doesn't, you know, peg that as some NSFW stuff, but you masticate it, you know, you break it down physically. Because the whole, you know, production chain is essentially just breaking something down into smaller and smaller pieces. First you got a chocolate bar, then you break it down into, like, you know, smaller than bite-sized chunks, then you swallow it and your stomach acid, like, you know, dissolves it into, you know, essentially particulate, and then the particulate passes through your intestines, which, you know, break it down into macro and micronutrients that then get synthesized, you know, in the rest of your body, or you know, used for fuel in the rest of your body, and synthesized into other stuff that you use for, you know, everyday life. But that's like an incredible machine, man. Can you, like, if you went to your, you know, your buddy's place of work and he was like, oh yeah, first we put the leaves in the muncher, and then they pass into the acid tube, and then they, you know, we squeeze them through, you know, a mile of, you know, small intestine, you would be like, oh my god, who invented this? This is incredible. Meanwhile, you know, we've all got that going on inside of us on a daily basis. It's crazy, man. Anyway. What else have I been up to? Not too much. Haven't really, you know, left the house in a little bit, which is understandable. Slept pretty well last night. Baby had another amazing sleep. Very, very happy to say. And apart from that, just excited to, you know, have another day of delicious content delivery. I have consumed some cereal this morning. I passed it through the masticator, and, you know, I'm looking forward to maybe, you know, after my stream today, maybe I'll pass it through the terminal. But we'll see, you know. There's a variable digestive time on the process. Anyway. Gross. I'm just saying, it's kind of interesting. It's more than kind of interesting. Steam sale? Oh, okay. I don't know if well, it should work. Yeah, Head of the Keeper should work. Here's my game plan, okay, for the rest of this run, because our damage is, like, horrible. But our HP is insanely good. So we're going to keep Maggie's Faith as kind of like a failsafe. If things go terribly wrong, then we're going to want all the HP that we can get, and Maggie's Faith is going to be a great helper there. I want to replace Yumheart, though. Might seem a little counterintuitive given what I just said, but I want to replace Yumheart with, like, blue or red candle, which is why I'm a little disappointed that our shop... Well, dude, we could totally replace Yumheart now. But I want to replace Yumheart with a spacebar item that does damage. Doesn't have to be blue or red candle. It could be Crack the Sky. You know, it could be, dare I say, even like the Necronomicon or something like that. Like, just something that, you know, allows us to do a little bit better in these, you know, tanky enemies or rooms with multiple enemies, because obviously we're going to continue to be a little bit derelict in our damage for a bit here. As you can see, we're not exactly blowing the doors off little Chad here. That's fine. It is what it is. I think we actually will take a little flyer on the shop. Like, I think on the shop, we will buy one of the 15-cent items just to see if maybe we can't get a little lucky. Remember, it doesn't... We want blue candle, red candle maybe from the shop, but it doesn't have to be blue candle, red candle to be useful. We could get any variety of useful item. Probably a few useless ones as well, but... Jumper cables. Not against them. And we'll try to maybe get an arcade on our next floor. We'll lose our Eternal Heart in playing the Blood Bank, but it's worth it. And, oh, I thought that was an arcade, but no such luck. Anyway, yeah. I mean, everything's going well. Just having a good time. There's a shooting star, something, yeah, Lady Godiva. And then I was, there's blood. So that's moving on. Well, who needs a blood bank, dude? And who needs the Quickie Mart? Dude, I was dying. I don't use Isaac as, like, an opportunity... Frick. As an opportunity to advertise my other series. You know, I kind of operate on the principle that, like, you know, you'll watch whatever you want to watch. But I did, you know, the RimWorld series from my camera, from my point of view, is not the most engaging thing in the world, because I do spend more time zooming in and out than actually issuing commands. No doubt about it. However, the banter is undefeated 2021. Sip's story about how his aunt stayed with him and ripped, when he was a kid, and ripped down a Bart Simpson poster off of his wall because Bart Simpson was a vessel of the devil and was sent to, you know, like, propagandize Satanism to the nation's youth. Great story. Absolutely wonderful story. I laughed and I laughed. It is funny, you know, like, even now, like, when I was a kid, The Simpsons were popping off. I think they the show started in like 1989 or something like that. So, you know, it was in its early seasons when I was just starting to be allowed to watch TV. But it was insanely popular. It was like a cultural phenomenon, right? Like almost, maybe not almost everybody, but like at least close to 50% of people my age that grew up in Canada or the United States have like a pretty encyclopedic knowledge of The Simpsons, which is indicative that something is like an unbelievable cultural force, right? There we go. This is very good. 20% damage boost right out the gates. But even as a kid, you know, Itchy and Scratchy is... Oh, okay, and it's the exact item we asked for. Itchy and Scratchy is on The Simpsons, and that's like a Tom and Jerry show where... Or the parody, I should say. where, you know, basically they fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. Fight. My parents wouldn't let me watch it because, you know, you see like a cartoon mouse get one up on a cartoon cat, and the cat ends up, you know, getting electrocuted into a skeleton or something like that, like Home Alone 2 style. F in chat for that, please. F in chat. It's very funny to think about. Like, I don't think my parents did anything wrong. I mean, I think to some extent, I was gonna say you'd rather, like, err on the side of caution than err on the side of, like, you know, being, like, overly permissive. Because the thing is, you can always become more permissive over time, but it's very hard to walk back if you were like, hey, you're allowed to watch whatever you want, and then, you know, all of a sudden your 4-year-old is like, I want to watch The Sopranos, and you're like, I told you can't watch The Sopranos. I'm almost on the 8th season. Tony's gonna eat the gabagool. You know, it's you don't want to have to walk it back. It makes you look like a hypocrite in your child's eyes. But it is funny to look back and see. I mean, this is not really what we're looking for, man. But we'll take it, and then screw you. And look at how quaint, like, the things they were worried about back then. Like, it's hilarious now, and maybe, like, there were real consequences. I wasn't alive for it, but the satanic panic surrounding, like, Dungeons and Dragons. The idea that, like, Dungeons and Dragons was, like, a corrupting influence that was gonna lead to, like, the complete erosion of morals in a child or in a teenager is hilarious. Because the stereotype when I was growing up, and don't shoot the messenger here, I didn't make the stereotype, right? But the stereotype when I was growing up of Dungeons and Dragons was essentially that it was only played by the nerdiest of the nerds. The kinds of kids who, you know, would be like, oh, I can't drink a soda, it's after 4 p.m., right? Like the kind of kids who wore like a wrist brace in 7th grade because their dad had carpal tunnel or whatever, because he was probably one of the early pioneers of the software industry and was, like, very prudent about not having his child have the same repetitive stress injury that he had. See, I turned that into a positive thing. But, like, it definitely, like, if you met somebody, when I was in high school from, like, 2002 to 2006, if you met somebody who played Dungeons and Dragons, your parents would definitely not be like, oh, stay away from them, they're a bad influence. At least my parents wouldn't be. They would be like, spend more time with them. They're going somewhere in life. Now, of course, you know, Dungeons and Dragons has become much less, well, I was gonna say much less gate-kept, but that's not really, I don't think anybody was gatekeeping that, well, again, I wasn't part of the scene, but I think it was less that there was gatekeeping on Dungeons and Dragons back in the day, and more that it was just like, you know, it was just considered like a super nerdy thing, so, you know, if you didn't want to be considered a super nerd, you wouldn't play it, and then that probably ended up, you know, leading to me, because if there was ever a time for me to play Dungeons and Dragons, you know, very few times in my life have I had more free time than I had in high school to engage in, you know, a role-playing game like that. Now, I'm being careful, I'm not saying it's exclusively for people with lots of free time, because there's a ton of adults who are playing Dungeons and Dragons and balancing their life responsibility. I'm just, when I was growing up, it was for super nerds, which makes it hilarious, because now it's for everybody, which is much better, of course. But in the 80s, I guess, there was a little subset of, you know, overly moralistic America that was like, Gary Gygax was sent by Satan to turn you into a minion of Beelzebub. And you're like, I just like to roll the dice and try to hit the kobold. Anyway, it's funny how that changes. And then, like, the same thing is, like, I'm not gonna make any friends with this, but, like, I was in, like, 4th grade, 5th grade maybe, when South Park was popping off. My parents, like, didn't want me to watch it, and then one day, I think they had, like, a date night or something, so I was staying with my grandma, and she had Comedy Central. I watched, like, 8 episodes of South Park. And my grandma, when my mom came to pick me up, was like, oh yeah, don't worry, he just watched TV all night. My parents were like, okay, I guess we might as well just let him watch it if he's already seen it. Now, like, the idea that, like, it's much less that I wouldn't want my kid watching South Park or Family Guy or whatever, because it's crass. It's much more like, I don't know if I would want them watching, South Park or Family Guy because it's unsophisticated and like kind of, I don't know. I don't want to call it cringeworthy because, you know, one decade's classic is like another decade's cringe from time to time, right? But I mean, really, like, South Park's still on the air, right? Like, what are they? I don't know, man. I'm not saying the show's changed. I'm saying I've changed. Marbies. No. Well, I'm not the happiest camper to be walking back here to try to get to our item room. Still very eager at some point to, you know, get a damage upgrade. We are still at 2.27. Again, I did do it to myself. Sure, alright. There's no denying that I did it to myself. I took a damage downgrade, and I took it for a, you know, it was a calculated risk, but a risk nonetheless. But you are, you know, like, we're now, I don't know, 17 rooms, or 17 floors since our last damage upgrade. All I'm saying is repentance can't come soon enough. So they can stuff even more items in the game and make damage upgrades even less likely. Oh, we'll take the hit here. Hey, let's go! You could tell I did some damage psychologically with that last piece of criticism. You know how they say there's like there's a little bit of truth in every joke? That one was more like, I hope you laughed, because that was just a true statement phrased in a joking way. I did have like that first moment the other day where I looked, because yesterday was February 1st, and I realized, like, oh my god, this is the last, supposedly the last full month that repentance won't be out in. And you always start with making like arbitrary, you know, targets like that, right? Like I've told you many a time, you know, my strategy when I worked in an office job was like I would break the day down into I wouldn't even call them like discrete chunks, but you know, like let's say you work from 9 to 5, so that's 8 hours. Every hour is 12% of your day, more or less, maybe 12 and a half, right? So you don't think about it for like the first couple of hours of work. If you can get around it, you just stay busy. And then, you know, maybe it's 11 and you're like, oh my god, I'm already 25% of the way done work. And then you recontextualize it and you go, okay, now there's only 6 hours of work left. Every hour is now 16%. So you don't go like, oh, I went from 25% to, you know, 37. You then reset the clock, but make the rate go up faster. And then when there's 1 hour of work left, oh my god. You're like, every minute that goes by, you're like, oh my god, I'm 1% closer to the end of the day. More than 1%. I also used to do that, and I think this is very common, but I used to do it like monetarily as well. So, you know, when it comes to things that you would, you know, purchase, like if you're purchasing a new video game, maybe you made $10 an hour, new video game $60. You go, is this new video game worth 1 hour of my time? And normally you'd probably have to factor in taxes there, but I was still like under the income tax line essentially. So, you know, once a year the government would send me a letter that was like, lol, sign this and we'll give you a bunch of money. And I was like, this is great. Oh, Canada. Which, you know, I mean, it is great, I suppose, but, and sometimes you'd be like, yes, this game is worth 6 hours of my time, but then you start to do the second order calculation, you know, it's worth 6 hours of my time, if I play 60 hours of it, because my leisure time to me is worth 1/10 of my working time or whatever, you know, you start to engage in some just nonsense, essentially, to try to contextualize it, you know, because I don't know, I understand, like, you're always looking for, like, a logical system, right? Like, you're looking for some kind of flowchart, excuse me, Jesus? With which to, like, look at the world. Like, that's why, like, I get annoyed sometimes, because I'll, like, tell Chad about, like, oh, you know, hey, I had a burrito the other day, and then, you know, all they want to do is dissect it logically instead of just be like, I mean, I get it, you know, they're there to be entertained. They're not there to just, you know, be like, you know, oh, Poggy, a burrito, you're my hero. But you know. Sometimes you like just shut up and listen to the story. Oh, you got a burrito? Where'd you get it? DoorDash? DoorDash? No, I prefer Uber Eats, but they all suck because they treat their workers like independent contractors. Plus, you got a burrito? You burrito in Canada? Lol. Forehead burrito? Oh, but did you get it with the? You got a burrito, but there's so many carbs in a burrito. What I usually like to do is get a burrito bowl, and I know it sounds like I'm bitter, but you know sometimes I'm like, look, there's a reason I'm telling the story and you're listening. Sorry, I'm just look. It's just, you know, maybe it's that I see the interaction as being more like friendly than it should be. You know, if a friend was telling me about like his lunch, I wouldn't immediately, like halfway through his story, I wouldn't be, oh, you got it from Chipotle? Personally, I prefer the wraps from Qdoba, but if you go from Qdoba, you got to get the spinach wrap. But one time I got a spinach, spinach, kale's better. Kale, I prefer iceberg lettuce. Yeah, I don't like any vegetables. You know, like it's a chorus and a cacophony. I do dude, you might think that like we have a hostile stream. I actually, and I've been gaslit, I think, into thinking that I have had a hostile stream before, because occasionally people will come in and be like, I wanted something comfy, but then people are pretending to be mad for humor, and this is uncomfortable for me. Which is, you know, there's different strokes for different folks on the Twitch platform, for sure. You shouldn't have any trouble finding something you're interested in. You know, there's like 112,000 partner streamers or something like that, and you know they're all live every day because you gotta be in order to feed the beast. People will forget you exist, right? Hold on, we have a bunch of money. Let's go back to our shop here because this could really set us up for the rest of the run here. But I was watching, and I'll just say it because like I think he takes some pride in the hostility of his stream. It's part of the brand. But I was watching noted political streamer Hassan the other day, and he was playing Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and he was having, I would say, like a little bit of trouble on a boss fight, and his chat was just you could see the Ouroboros in action, right? Like his chat was lighting them up. Two of spades. I definitely think we should try to just get as many damage upgrades out of this as possible. This seems very sensible to me. Then we buy this and go. So we lose Blue Candle, which is not great, but we're gonna hopefully get extreme dividends paid as a result of a blank card Black Rune. So his chat was like lighting him up, and they were like, use gyro controls. And he's like, I don't want to use gyro controls. I just want to play the game like the way I'm comfortable with. Both parties, I would say, have a point. And then, you know, because it's a 20,000 person chat, right? Like, the only way to get noticed is you gotta be rude and spam emotes. So people were like, I don't wanna, it takes 2 minutes of practice, Kek W, Sag. Like, these are just Twitch emotes. And then he's like, yo, Chad, like, would you go to somebody's house and be like, don't set your cutlery? I just literally hit Q. F. And like they were like, man, baby streamer, blah blah, and I was like, man, like there's a lot of people, like you gotta be strong on Twitch, man, because there's a lot of people who just like want to fight. This makes me feel a little bit better about using the Black Rune there. That's gonna be pretty pog, and I think it's fine. Like if you want to fight. Levy, like Gotham Chess, I think is another good example. He's got that like combative, like New York sort of attitude, you know, where he's like, hey, I hate you, go die, I hate you, love you, you know, let's do this again tomorrow. I think he's got that sort of demeanor. I think he likes the sparring, which makes for and again, he gets some of the weirdest comments I've ever seen. As a result of that, from people who do not enjoy the sparring. But it works out very well for him. But you got to be careful, because if you're one of those people, and I oscillate back and forth. I like to be faux combative with my friends when we've established that there's that bit of kayfabe. And we're like, you know, hey, you know, Bear Taffy, I love you. You're a good friend. On the show today, we're going to bust each other's chops a little bit, okay? Is that all right? But then when, you know, Demon Slayer fan 1991 in chat is like, this guy really thinks he had the audacity to order a burrito when he lives not in Texas, you're like, just shut up, okay? We're trying to keep the attitude like positive here. You're not part of the. I get that that's the appeal of the banter, is that you're like that reaction image of the kid eating the cereal next to the advertisement where all the people are talking and laughing to one another. But still, you know, like, I'm just saying. Anyway, I was losing it yesterday because I was trying to explain, like, the meal delivery service that we have. And it just spirals out of control if you let it. And the streamer has the ability to break the chain. Sometimes I'm not strong enough to do it because I see the opportunity for, like, a quick snipe of dopamine. A more powerful streamer than myself could keep the wolves at bay. But, and you're like, yeah, so we got, like, this delivery service that, you know, like, they deliver, like, you know, 7 meals to us on Sunday, and then I have lunches for the rest of the week. Sounds a little bit like something called Uber Eats. No, it's not really like Uber Eats, because it's not really, like, from restaurants. They're from, like, I don't know, industrial kitchens. So, like, to be honest with you, the meals, like, aren't as delicious as they would be from, like, Uber Eats or something like that, but you know, you also don't have to order 7 different times throughout the week. You know, they arrive all on Sunday and keep in the fridge, so you're able to just have the lunches at your own convenience. And then on top of that, you know, the per meal cost ends up being like $8 Canadian, so probably, like, you know, maximum half of the cost of each Uber Eats order that you would make. Plus, you're kind of, like, supporting, I would say, more of, like, a local business as opposed to, like, a, you know, a company that, to a large extent, is taking advantage of permissive labor laws, let's say. Why not just meal prep? I mean, that's a good point. Why not just meal prep? Well, there's a couple of things. One is, I love meal prep. You know, I've done it many times before. You can go to the grocery store, and, you know, you could just make a big pot of white chicken chili, and you have it in your fridge at any given moment. It's definitely a lot cheaper. You do gain something, I think, from this service by having some variety. If variety matters to you, then, you know, you get to have 7 different meals a week instead of just eating the same thing over and over. Maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't. Plus, you know, meal prep doesn't necessarily have to take a lot of time, but time is at, like, an extreme premium with work and the newborn and stuff like that. So, you know, it's very convenient for us. Oh, having a baby in 2020, huh? Don't you care about... Well, I do care about the environment, but at the same time, you know, it's kind of like a hope of mine that, you know, I mean, I guess I've always wanted to have kids as well, and then, or at least, you know, maybe not always, but for a while I've been like, yeah, I see the future of our family as maybe having a kid or two, and, you know, obviously there's environmental problems, but, and some of those maybe are related to population, but at the same time, you know, we're having 1 kid, we're not having 8 kids, you know, we're replacing 2 people with 1 person. It's adding a lot of enrichment to our lives, and who knows, she might even end up inventing, like, a natural gas reabsorption company or something like that causes a net, you know, carbon sink on the world. You never know, right? You get the idea. Like, I know I've been going for a while here, but if you let it spiral, you can find yourself getting trapped in bad faith arguments, essentially, over and over and over. You gotta acknowledge, and I've been there. Sometimes you're just bored, and you, like, want to argue, which is fine if you can find a dance partner. But if you gotta incept someone, if you gotta trick them into being your dance partner, you're like, ah. I mean, I've been thinking about that because, you know, like, it's crazy how much, like, I get roasted for watching the occasional episode of 90 Day Fiancé, but meanwhile, like, the same people will be in my chat and be like, "Go NL! Did you hear what Malf said about you, your dad craft? He said your dad house wasn't aesthetically pleasing. What do you think about that, Kek W?" And I'm like, dude, you're like, I mean, if 90 Day Fiancé is trashed here, Twitch, like, manufactured drama like that is actually, like, toxic waste. Anyway. Not bitter, just joking, really. Dude, what the heck? Yes. Absolutely. We're not even gonna be light on HP, really. Like, this is just very good. Alright, so we were heading up to the cathedral. Little light on HP. Not very light on HP, just a little light on HP, but with a blank card, 2 of diamonds play, like, lots of room to grow there, or sustain, I should say. I think it's a lesson that I've gradually, like, been learning about the internet. And it's a very simple lesson to understand. It's a hard one to put into practice every day. I would say it's like, proper nutrition or something like that. Everybody knows, like, you shouldn't eat, like, a whole bag of tortilla chips in a single sitting. But sometimes when the bag's open, you start to run, the logic in your head of, like, oh, the bag's open, I'll just have a few. Okay, well, I'm not full yet, I'm not stuffed, so I'll have a few more. Oh, it's half empty. Well, maybe it's not quite half empty. Oh, now it's like, 75% empty. Might as well finish the whole thing. It's an easy thing to acknowledge. It's hard to have that discipline every single day, and I think every streamer slips up from time to time. Some more than others, for sure. But there are people online who only... And it's different strokes, different folks. There's people online who only want comfy content. They never want any kind of content that has even the slightest bit of antagonism. Whether it's assumed antagonism, i.e. like artificial, or real. Yeah, we should probably shoot brimstone, huh? It's a pretty powerful weapon. And then there's people online who are like, comfy content makes me want to fall asleep. I only want content where I can kick W every, 2 seconds. And then there's the kind of people who are like, sometimes I'm into A and sometimes I'm into column B. I think is, and there's a lesson to learn there that, in my opinion at least, that's not just for streamers. I think the lesson is, that's the internet in general as well. There's people, and you can find them based on their post history, or even like if you know them personally, you just know their patterns, right? Like I have friends who, I'll just say it, it's Rob. He's not gonna take offense to this. Almost anything that I would bring up in the Discord, I know there's a chance Rob will pivot it to some kind of political discussion. Or like he'll look at it through a political lens. Nothing wrong with it, honestly. Sometimes I'm in the mood for that, and sometimes, I'm not. But going into it, that you're like, in all likelihood, when I post that funny, I mean, I guess I shouldn't call it funny, but when I post that video of the aerobics instructor in Burma, doing her lesson in front of the coup that's happening at the parliament buildings, Rob's gonna turn it political. Whereas, even though it's a coup attempt, it's not political, brother, it's just a meme, forehead. See, the joke is on me. But you gotta cultivate the kind of energy you want when you want it, I got friends who, like, when I want to argue, I'll just talk to them. Same like on Twitter. Sometimes people, you'll learn to recognize their avatars and stuff like that. You're like, this person only tweets me positive things. Occasionally you need a boost. You find their tweets, they say, great stream today, it was a lot of fun to be there, and you're like, oh, pog. Sometimes you're feeling a little feisty, you're like, let me look up what the worst people on the internet think of me, and you're like, I hate them. You got to cultivate the kind of energy you want to see on that given day. And I think, let's not say everything has its place, but I feel like a lot of it has its place. Everything in moderation, including moderation. So I don't really know how I got on this topic. Should have been talking more about, the human brain. But yeah, I think I learned something. I learned something from watching Hassan stream. One is like, oh my god, I would never respond to the criticism to use Joy-Con controls with like 20 minutes of sustained annoyance about it. But at the same time, my man's got 5-digit viewers, like he's doing something right, and people are like, oh, I can't wait to watch tomorrow. Like, I guess it's like an older sister, older brother sort of dynamic, where like, he teases chat teases him, and then like, it's maybe like a little exhausting, and occasionally feelings get hurt, but at the end of it, everybody's like, that was fun. But I also, like, I don't know, man, like some of the comfy streams, I'm not like a good vibes only sort of guy. I really wish that I were. I think it would make life, let's not say easier, but more even, you know? But whenever people are like, good vibes only, I'm like, nah, man. Some things are kind of like bad vibes. And occasionally, I do like to poke the hornet's nest a little bit. I think it just... I like to make kind of like an S-head comment now and then, if you know what I mean. I think it spices it up. I don't want to just eat porridge and gruel for every meal. Sometimes you're gonna eat a meal that's too spicy and you're gonna regret it, but you're gonna, you're like, you know what? That's what it's all about. I think I'm a good vibes sometimes sort of guy. You know, my ideal stream dynamic is everybody in the stream recognizes that what's happening in the stream is for entertainment purposes. That doesn't mean, you cyberbully someone. You know, you want everybody to feel like safe and like they're in on the joke and not that the joke is about them. But there's something, and dare I get a little bit up my own you-know-what about this, but there's something a little magical about having that kind of dynamic with somebody where you both kind of know that you can tease one another, I should say. And, occasionally it might go a little bit too far, but it went a little too far in order to, like, figure out what that barrier was, and then you walk it back from there. You know, not like, oh, tough love by any means necessary. Like, I think there's another streamer that, I tangentially follow who was like, hey, I lost like 20 pounds in January. And then somebody replied and said, how OP is bullying? I guess he was getting bullied, that maybe gotten a little soft. And, it caused him to change his life around. And I was like, man, I would never... I would think that to myself. Like, I've said a few times, like, I think shame is a very powerful motivator. Shame and embarrassment. Doesn't feel good, though. But, like, I would never intentionally take it that far, at least. But, oh my god, like, in some ways, I was like, man, they got a level of rapport I've never seen before. Somebody said that to me, I'd be like, you're cut out of the La Familia. La Cosa Northern. I'm having like a little crisis here from the fact that we're on a 40-minute Isaac run where we've had Brimstone for like and Cricket's Head for the whole run. How is this possible that our damage is still only 5.71 and this is also going to be a long episode? I'm not mad, I'm just like... Wait, honestly, and this is like entitlement at its finest, but we're actually like due for a run that just craps on the game. We have not... I mean, we've had runs with good items. We've had runs with, like, a large margin of safety. But we have not had runs lately that, like... At least in the past few days, that were just like, oh, we just steamrolled the whole game. Now, honestly, prior to that, I'm now remembering that for, like, a week, every time I said an Isaac video, I was like, oh, there's only... it's only 27 minutes long or something like that, so... maybe we were just due. But I'm the streamer. Give me what I want. Just kidding, unless... Alrighty. Alright, just yeet some Brimstone shots in there. You know how it goes. Blue Baby's gonna die. We got 2 of Hearts to begin with. I mean, with jumper cables, there's always the chance we could even get another blank card charge. But we are definitely cruising. Definitely in the driver's seat. It's kind of a sad situation. Like, it'll bring a tear to your eye when you have to use poison bombs to supplement your damage when you have Brimstone and Maw of the Void. You gotta tighten your belt a little bit. Alrighty. Well, that's like, what are we at, 27 in a row? Something crazy. 27 in a row. For now, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. See ya!